Warning, this podcast contains spoilers. Warning, this podcast contains spoilers.
Let's go watch it in 2D. No, let's go watch it in 3D. But if we watch it in 3D, then is it worth the cost?
My life hasn't been what you probably think it has.
Welcome to the future. Life is good, but it can be better.
The world needs you. You know what you need to do.
Nothing good is born from lies. And greatness is not what you think.
Wonder Woman 1984 in theaters and streaming.
Hello, and welcome to the Spoilercast of Wonder Woman 1984. I'm Adolf. I have with me New Jake.
Hi, everybody.
So, as we said before, this is a Spoilercast, and we're going to get right into it. We're not going to, we're going to get into it, but we're not going to get like an hour-long podcast. We're just going to really get into the nitty-gritty. So the movie starts here with a whole Olympic kind of scene with the games, and I wasn't really sure what the point of it was.
It's just to I guess, like, don't cheat. I guess, like, don't cheat your way to the top. And they didn't need to take 10 or 15 minutes to make that happen. They could have cut that out.
Yeah, it could have been really reduced. They do have it's an excuse to have young Wonder Woman, child Wonder Woman. I don't know if it's the same actress as it was in the first one.
Oh, yes. She did all her own stunts, too.
It's a cool scene. It just felt like, I was like, okay, cool. This is a way to introduce the gold suit or whatever.
They didn't even need that. They could have done that with a flashback, which they did later in the movie, so the whole opening could have just been 1 or 2 minutes cut and dry.
And, we get to the scene where we're basically introducing the characters of Barbara Minerva, Kristen Wiig, and Max Lord. And you see Max Lord on TV, hacking his black gold and, trying to be a television star. And Barbara Minerva being super nervous and mousy, and he accidentally meets Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, and they find a relic, and this relic is this crystal or something. Yeah,
it's I think it's a wish stone or something they call it. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but wish stone.
Yeah,
grant your wish.
And we find out that this has Latin on there, and then eventually Wonder Woman does read that. Oh, it also has the symbol of the gods, that somehow the god of lies gave his powers and imbued this stone with the ability to grant wishes, but it's like the monkey paw, which they actually reference monkey paw and say, it does horrible things to people. You get your wish, but then you don't really like it. And so that's the crux of the story, where this wishing stone is passed around and everyone gets a wish, including Wonder Woman, which her wish is to bring back Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
Which he's reincarnated into someone else's body.
Yeah, but like everybody else sees that guy, but she just sees him as Steve Trevor, which is very confusing.
Yeah. I mean, we eventually get to see that scene when they reunite and he knows who she is and she knows who he is. But like, you feel bad for this guy, whoever the hell this guy was, that Chris Pine's character took over,
Oh, yeah. And then what's going to happen is whenever he leaves his body, it's what's going to happen to that guy. Is he going to know what's happened? Is he going to be like, where was I for the past 3 days or however long it took? It just,
yeah,
very, very, very strange.
And Kristen Wiig and Barbara Minerva and Diana Prince actually have a decent friendship, and I actually think they have good chemistry on screen.
Oh, yeah, they do really well, and I've seen some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that they've recorded, and they had a blast. Their chemistry shows up on screen. I'm glad it does, because it needs to work.
And I do like her. I like, Kristen Wiig overall as an actor, and I like this role. And Max Lord is struggling, egomaniac kind of thing, but he has a family. He has a son. We don't see the mom in this movie at all, but the son is like a key thing. And it becomes kind of a trope where, oh, you got to do it for the son, or you got to be good for the son. And
it does help with his humanity as a character, and I do appreciate that fact, because most comic book movies, they don't give humanity to the villain. It really sucks.
Yeah, and so they all, without really, I mean, they read that it's a wish stone, but they don't know it actually gives them powers. They just kind of playfully wish it, which I actually kind of bought. But I did kind of think the wish stone was a gimmick, and it's very comic booky.
Yeah, it was a gimmick, but it was also had some weird things. It's like, do you have to say it out loud, or do you have to imagine it? Is it almost like a prayer? How does this work? And there was no concrete way because it kind of happened through all of those ways in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, and then somewhere Max Warlord knows about this, and the movie starts off after the scene in Themyscira. There's a mall chase scene where Wonder Woman is there, and she stops the guys, and it's like, I mean, it's overkill. I mean, just some, mall thugs. Wonder Woman doesn't need to take care of that.
Yeah, but I want to know how those mall thugs knew that there's the hidden room with all those artifacts, and why would a mall jewelry store have said room with the mall the artifacts in the back room? That just seems really bad and cheesy and bad screenwriting. I don't like that part.
Yeah, it's just, convenience sake, and we always have a back room or whatever, and it's in the mall. No one suspects it, kind of thing.
if it's in the mall, it's going to be a tiny storage room. It's not going to be. It wasn't a big warehouse, but it wasn't going to be that roomy as it was portrayed in the film.
Yeah, because malls cost a lot of money back in the 80s.
Yeah, they do. I mean, especially in Washington D.C., where the seat of power, it's probably going to be a lot of taxes and a lot of rent because it's a highly populated area. It's not going to be cheap.
Anyway, so yeah, they steal the artifact, and they all get we figure out that Max Lord wants to donate a huge amount of money to the wing of the and he wants to get this wish stone, and Kristen Wiig wishes that she was stronger, and I genuinely believed this. I was like, okay, yeah. I didn't feel like she was being too weak. I think there were some scenes with her getting assaulted, and it made sense. And,
oh, yeah.
It made sense to why she would want to wish this. And it didn't seem like she was a weak character. She's just mousy kind of character.
A wallflower, yeah.
And Max Lord eventually gets it. And then he has, in some ways, a genius, some ways, an evil. You would think he want to learn more about this thing before he wishes on it. But he wishes that he himself was it.
Yeah, and then he starts getting weaker as the movie progresses because it's taken away his health because he is the embodiment of the stone.
So it's kind of like basically Jafar and, him wishing that he was a genie kind of thing where okay, now he's the genie. But he can't give people wishes, but he can sort of, but they have to wish upon him. And it's like, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a comic book movie, but it's really comic booky.
Yeah, especially in the end, where he's broadcasting. It's like, but I thought you had to physically touch. And I know they explain there's photons and stuff beaming out at you, but how does that work? It just makes no sense.
So, after that, we learn that, there's during the party, Gal Gadot, Diana Prince, Wonder Woman meets up with Chris Pine, and then, that he's in the other body, and that somehow or another he's reincarnated, but not as his own thing, which, I would have preferred. I mean, I do like the eventual thing where she has to give him up, but I would have preferred if he just reincarnated into his own person.
Yeah, that would have made more sense instead of the soul inhabiting another body.
Yeah,
they could have did that better.
And it could have been much more powerful and harder, but it would have been better if Chris Pine, if she ever doubts to him and doesn't want him to be around, he starts to die. And basically, I think that sounds horrible, but it's also a way to really affect better narrative of the story.
Right.
So there's a scene eventually where Diana Prince does have to leave Chris Pine to regain her powers because her powers are sapped away. That's the punishment to bring him back. So if he would have died again, which you see off screen, that she had to leave him behind, and she runs, and it was a powerful scene.
Yeah, but it was kind of alluding, like, whenever they was back in the apartment, and he was like, you got to renounce your wish because you need your powers, and she's like, no. And he kept on looking out the window for her apartment. I figured he was going to commit suicide or something, which would have been more impactful, I feel. But they didn't do that. It was kind of...
Yeah, I would have preferred they
Yeah,
not
it's
do
weird.
that.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have to show the body, but, I mean, they could have been like, oh, he's jumped out the window. But, yeah, I get it. I get why they did it.
And so after that, Max Lord starts going around and like people start wishing on him, and then he becomes successful, and then he goes to Egypt, and then he gives the Egyptian king or something the power to take his land back, and then they have a fight scene, and there's some pretty cool stuff they do with the whip, I think.
Oh yeah, I love that fight scene with the tanks and everything. It was really cool.
And so Wonder Woman saving the kids at the end, I think was cool. And like, don't play the street, kids. Come on.
Yeah, like, I mean, their parents are right there. They should tell them, "Come on, get out of the street," but they just let them play.
I mean, it's comic booky to a fault, and so we get to eventually, they learn, okay, this is what happened. And then Kristen, Barbara Minerva eventually starts gaining more powers. Like, she starts gaining the strength and agility where she always fall down wearing high heels. Now she's very agile. And toward the end of the movie, she becomes a cheetah. But it was really kind of a stretch. Like, I felt like that part was like, come on, really? That's how it's going to do it?
Yeah, it's like she literally became what she wished for with the apex predator, and it looked not good, but it's not as bad as like the Rhino from Amazing Spider-Man 2 or the Electro from that movie. It was eh.
Yeah, they kept that whole scene in the dark with some like lidded scenes here and there, but it's just like you never get like a full-on scene of her in the daylight with the full-on makeup, and it seemed like to the end she gave it up relatively quickly after she gained it, which is kind of disappointing in one way, that because the cheetah is a legitimate villain to a Wonder Woman in the comics.
Yeah.
And the way the comic book version of Cheetah exists, there's certain versions of him being really sexist and garbage. That she, wasn't a virgin, so she's cursed to have the powers of a cheetah or some shit like that. But
yeah.
Still, it's a little bit weird to take away this villain, and Max Lord slowly but surely getting everyone to wish, and then he gets to talk to the president, and then he gets to have this whole thing with the president taking away the emergency broadcast and everyone wishing upon him and having like him, and it's just like, come on, guys, this is getting out of hand. I mean, that was part of the point, but it's also this is kind of getting ridiculous, guys. So that was kind of really turning me off, and then at the end, how it resolved just did not feel right either.
Yeah, I like the evil characters get away scot-free, and I hated that.
Yeah, Cheetah goes back to being human, and she doesn't really learn anything. She knows that, and then I guess Max Lord, gets to have his kid back, but he doesn't, I don't know what really happens with that. And I mean, during this time in between, Chris Pine does teach Diana how to fly. Sorry, I'm keeping the names and the characters mixed up.
That's all right.
So they do have a really cool scene with the jet, and that she remembers that she could do a spell to make her jet invisible, which is, a nod to the invisible jet in Wonder Woman.
Yeah. But it felt like too convenient and fan servicey at that point.
Yeah, I was like, why the hell she didn't do this in World War One?
Yeah, it's like, but it's like, well, I only did it once, and I lost my coffee cup and never did it again. And then she could finally make a plane invisible, which that's a huge stretch.
I mean, I would have rather have had that scene in the movie than the scene with the beginning Olympics or whatever.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I would have loved to have seen like her kind of training or keeping up, like, which they kind of did with the saving random people on the streets of Washington D.C. then the mall scene. But I don't know. It needed more lead up to where she is now instead of just like a sudden shift to 1984.
Yeah, and we have no idea why she'd sat out World War II or what she was doing in that time.
Well, there is a picture that you see of where she was at. I don't know if it was Auschwitz or something like that, but she was at an internment camp, and I guess she liberated it, but kind of too little, too late there. But
And it's weird because like, do people know she's Wonder Woman? Do people know what the hell she is? Because she all her stuff she did was in broad daylight in front of tons of people. I think
yeah,
she broke some cameras, but so what? I mean, that people know who she is and know this beautiful woman in this colorful outfit is helping people.
and she looks exactly the same as she does as her alter ego Diana Prince. So
Yeah,
I mean, people sort of know who she is.
yeah. They didn't even try that. And it just kind of is so cheesy toward the end, and it's so out there, and the resolution just kind of falls apart for me. I was just like, come on, really? And like the I liked that she learned how to fly. That was cool. I liked
Yeah.
that. I liked a lot of parts of this movie. I liked the action scenes a lot. There was not enough of them, like you said.
Yes.
Um, it's just it kind of just it feels like it should be better, and the wishing aspect, it just is so corny. It's so comic booky, and it feels out of place. Like it feels like we've had a lot of movies that happen to be comic book movies. This is a comic book movie through and through, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It feels gimmicky. It feels cheap. It doesn't feel, it doesn't have the same kind of Marvel Cinematic Universe feeling, or
Right.
even, without comparing to the first one, it doesn't feel as authentic as the first one was either.
It feels like this would have been perfect at home if it came out in the mid to late 90s. Like it would have been perfect in 1997.
Yeah, and I do like certain parts of the movie, but there's so much cornball stuff that I just can't stand. So,
Same.
so yeah, I'm disappointed, but I don't hate this movie. It was fine. I liked it enough. It's just too long. It feels 2 hour. It feels 45 minutes too long, and I gave it a 6. And again, your score?
I gave it a 6.
I wanted to give it a 7, but more thought it over, more chewed over. I had to push it down to a 6. Sorry.
I mean, maybe in later reflection, maybe it'll be better, but as of now, solid 6.
There is kind of a nice kind of gesture to the end where they did say, "Oh, this is what everyone wishes, but no one really wants what they wish." And it kind of has like an inspirational message, which I kind of liked. It was kind of helpful for 2020, but I also kind of felt it felt a little tacked on.
Yeah, a little hammy, a little corny.
And then we do get a mid-credit scene. Did you see this?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed it.
With the original Wonder Woman.
Linda Carter.
And she's playing the role of Asteria or something?
Yeah, Alsteria. And I think it's the original warrior who wore the gold armor who they had to leave behind to defend Themyscira. And I guess she still survived and is walking the earth.
Yeah, there's a lot of plot holes here, and a lot of things that you could like. Okay, sure, Wonder Woman. Why does she need to use her whip to fly? At first she does, but then she learns how to not to. But you'd think some of this would be in the training.
Right? Yeah. I mean, perfect. I mean, it should have been in the training, but I don't know why they didn't do this. There's so many issues.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for us. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
But wait, there's more.
So we got Classic Jake here. He came onto the call for his thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984. So, Classic Jake, what are your thoughts? Full on spoilers.
I thought this was Patty Jenkins had directed the best Hallmark Christmas movie ever.
Okay. So what do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
I thought this was, movie-wise, I thought this was a better story than the first one. Had a much better third act. But having said all that, I didn't like it as much as the first movie. Part of it is there were so many things that just didn't mesh together. I felt like I was watching two separate movies that didn't quite intertwine.
Okay.
But having said that, I thought they were two very good movies. Of course, technically three, because the very, very end was obviously tacked on. But it was such a nice thing to kind of
Feel good about.
deal with. Yeah, and also deal with the creepiness of the whole Steve Trevor return.
So that Steve Trevor thing, it really bothered me and New Jake. That it's like he can't reincarnate. He can't just be himself. He has to take someone else's body. That's just like, come on, man.
Yeah, so basically Diane raped this guy.
Oh, we didn't even mention that in our podcast.
Yeah. Didn't want to go that dark.
Well, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So of course she's nice to him. She's well, let's just say she's coming from an advantage of knowing this guy better than he knows her. Let's just leave it at that.
Right.
And I'm wondering if this guy is supposed to be Nemesis, who's another romantic figure in Wonder Woman, when they have the times when they don't have her with Steve Trevor in the various, and of course the one really flamboyant little girl. I wonder if that's going to be Star Blossom in the future.
The one at the mall?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We did get confirmation right now, today, breaking news that Wonder Woman 3 has been approved by Warner Brothers. Patty Jenkins will return, and
Yes.
it is being fast-tracked because contractually obligated, Gal Gadot was done with Wonder Woman because they had 3 movies, which is Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, or 4 movies, Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984, so they didn't have any other contract. And Patty Jenkins said that she wouldn't want to, or Gal Gadot said she didn't want to do it without Patty. So that's
great news.
Yeah, that's great news. Now I kind of feel like this movie is getting tore up online. I don't know if you've seen any of this, Classic Jake, or not.
This movie's getting tore up like World War Z did for the same reasons.
It's unfair.
People don't like the politics of it. Do I agree with it? No. There was a few times watching this movie I felt like going, excuse me, I'm not a rapist. I've never raped anybody. I kind of felt like all men were being treated almost like rapists a few times. But I got over it real quick. One of the things that really, the way this script handled, I mean, this movie is like 1/3 Wonder Woman, 1/3 Steve Trevor, and 1/3 Maxwell Lord, but it still manages to be 100% a Wonder Woman movie. It's about Wonder Woman. I kept thinking, this is what Captain Marvel should have done instead of becoming the movie that's primarily about Nick Fury.
Yeah, it was like that was a hidden Nick Fury origin story.
Exactly. This movie was, Pedro Pascal was amazing as Maxwell Lord. And I joked I thought he was amazing. I said, no, this guy isn't Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, Wonder Woman would have had to have killed him. Like, Maxwell Lord in the comics. She would have had to have snapped his neck, because he would have never changed. He would have never grown.
Well, Maxwell Lord had that humanity, though, with his child, and he always retained that, even when he became the Stone.
Because he was disappointed in himself every time he did something that drove his son away.
Oh, yeah.
So his son was the most important part.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the son did wish that he got all his goodness out, and that everything else unleashed. I think that was kind of a corny thing, but I kind of liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought they needed to explain how some of the things worked, because you had to work so hard to figure stuff out. It should have been laid out for you, like how the wishes worked.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think of the length of this movie, Classic Jake?
It flew by for me. It didn't drag.
Oh wow!
Not our experience at all. We're like, this feels like 2.5 hours.
Uh-huh.
It didn't drag for me.
I mean, it wasn't wasted time. It was just you felt it.
What score would you give it, Classic Jake?
I'd give it an 8.
Wow.
Oh, we're down in 6 territory, both of us.
A lot of it is the third act for me.
And like a higher score or a lower score?
I was thinking I was in the 7s until the third act.
Oh, okay.
And I really liked the beginning because it showed that Diane grew. I mean, she started out as, well, I didn't necessarily see that she cheated, but she didn't follow the rules. Like, she didn't hit her target when she took the shortcut, which is why I think she was disqualified. But she learned that there's certain things you just have to do. You can't cheat. And another thing I really liked about this movie, it really showed how dark and bad, because I'm really sick of how people are saying how great the 80s were. Yeah. And the 80s, Reaganomics really screwed this country up, and we're really paying the price now.
Yeah, I mean, the total control of consumerism, the where, if you're not rich, you're not a good person. Just started in the 80s, and it's like, hey, it's not your fault. It's not everyone's fault that they're not poor or they're poor. It's not a life choice. It's sometimes you just can't.
Yeah, when this movie took place, this was the last time that somebody could have a minimum wage job and afford an apartment and afford to put themselves through college.
Right.
You can't do that now. In fact, these days, the only way you can make it is basically by cheating.
Yeah.
The honest pathway has been eliminated.
So, I said this before, and I'll say it again. I felt disappointed by this movie, and now people on the internet consider disappointment equal failure, which I disagree with the idea, because it doesn't mean, oh, well, I was disappointed, that means it sucks. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that you're disappointed. It's fine. You have something you like and just still disappointed. Do you feel disappointed by this movie or no?
No, I mean, there were some, I wish Hans Zimmer wouldn't have recycled his score from the first one so much. I would have liked
to do the first score.
Oh, whoever did it was, okay, the music, there was so much music recycled from the first movie, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, the theme still kicks ass, though. I love the Wonder Woman theme.
Mm-hmm. And I know, and I got a hoot out of watching her swing from lightning.
Yes. Great scene.
Was that cool in 3D?
I would have loved to have seen this in 3D.
Oh, it was great.
And I bought, yes, and my eyes rolled over the magic trick, making the plane invisible.
Oh, yeah.
I wish we got a payoff about the coffee cup.
Yes.
I wanted a payoff for the coffee cup.
Now, did you think that they did the 80s really good here in the movie, or do you think it was just underwhelming like I thought it was?
This is probably one of the most realistic depictions of the 80s I've ever seen in a modern movie. Yeah. Because the 80s everybody didn't have Memphis bright colored stuff. I mean, this was pretty much the there were subtle, they had the cheap Art Deco-ish stuff like the 80s had a lot of. Because there was 30s revival. There was a 30s were real popular in the 80s, so there was a lot of faux Art Deco stuff and a lot of brass and clean lines, like the mall. That was what a mall looked like in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
Now the president here, is that supposed to be Reagan? Because that's a really bad Reagan.
Yeah, they mentioned Star Wars and stuff.
This was second term Reagan with Alzheimer's.
It just didn't have anything of the Reagan-ness. I felt like it was like, okay, just a generic president. It wasn't like Reagan to me.
This was not the image of Reagan. This was the rumored version of Reagan that they didn't let people see. Because, I mean, the rumor is that his Alzheimer's by this time was so bad they were really controlling him in public.
Yeah.
I have no idea if that's true or not. But that's what I thought they were going for, to make him look like the stumble bum, that somebody who was in the later stages of Alzheimer's. I don't know if it was fair or not, but it is what it is.
Now, Classic Chick, what you thought of Barbara Minerva?
Compared to the source material, awesome. Because the source material is problematic at best. I mean, it's slut-shaming to the nth degree. I thought Kristen Wiig did a lot with this. Sure, it's a trope. You know, the nerdy-looking person that nobody pays attention to, and then all of a sudden becomes sexy and powerful.
Oh, the she's all that syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
Take off the glasses and you're instantly hot.
Uh-huh. And whoever did the effects for this should go fix Cats.
No, there was an issue that I had with the effects was whenever she was running through the streets of Washington, D.C. near the end before she got to the start of the third act, whenever she's running and lassos up the clouds, to fly, her feet didn't touch the ground. It looked awful. That's the only real complaint I had with the CGI in this film.
Okay, it's probably something I would have picked up if I'd seen it on a big screen instead of a television screen.
Oh, yeah. It's there. So if you happen to see it again in a theater or if you get the Blu-ray on a TV, just pay attention to that scene because she looks like she's floating almost.
Okay. I will keep an eye out. Some of the stuff. I mean, there was some CGI that was weak. I will be the first to admit that. Because some of the stuff in the battle when they were having the intro, when they were jumping in the little Olympics they were having, didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I bet you in 3D this would look fine.
Yeah, it looks fine.
because it would fuzz over some of the stuff.
Yeah,
because a lot of filmmakers use film grain and type and lighting and stuff to cover sins.
Right.
But this did make me all the more want to see what Patty Jenkins' original third act in the first Wonder Woman was.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the actual final version of Cheetah?
I had no problem with it because she said she wanted to be an apex predator. I mean, me, if I'd made that wish, I would have been King Shark, but that's me.
He's supposed to be in the Suicide Squad coming out in August, so keep an eye out for that.
Mm-hmm, yeah, King Shark was on Flash, and King Shark was on the Harley Quinn show. I think.
I've never seen any one of those, so I'll have to watch those at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Taika Waititi is going to be King Shark in the Suicide Squad movie, which
that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. A laid-back shark.
Yeah, laid-back shark from New Zealand. Yeah, I'm Cork Shark. I mean King Shark.
Yeah. And polite. Excuse me.
Yeah, very polite. Excuse me. I don't want to intrude, but I am a shark. Probably something like that.
I'm hungry.
I'm very hungry, but I don't particularly care for meat. But I'll make an exception for you. Just kind of something New Zealander like that.
So I wasn't a big fan of how she looked. I think she looked okay and not terrible, but I also feel like they just kind of cheapened out and didn't actually really get to see her.
Yeah, the darkness covered the crappy CGI, potentially crappy CGI.
Yeah, at least they didn't go with comic book version, which was a woman in a cheetah skin.
Yeah, that's all she was. It was like she just wanted to dress up like a cheetah and became a cheetah, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, I do feel bad that her villains are gone. Basically, Max Lord, I guess, became a better person at the end, and Cheetah's not really Cheetah anymore. There's no real villains left for her, I guess.
There's other villains.
I mean, she could fight other rogues from the other DC universe if she wanted to, to really get that crossover.
And I think they're setting up something with the oh god, I'm trying to remember the name because
Asteria.
Asteria. Because I mean, you beat Cheetah wearing Asteria's armor.
Yes.
And that's badass when she was flying with it.
Oh, what did you think about Asteria with Linda Carter, the original Wonder Woman, being her in the film? You know, what did you think about it?
Why not?
Yeah.
Linda Carter she has the looks.
Oh yeah, she's still beautiful.
She's got the acting chops. She can do it. She's in the third movie.
Yeah.
And I hope they have Artemis in the third movie. There's
they might do that.
I mean, there's still some other Wonder. Heck, I would love to see Catwoman.
I mean, with I don't know if the Batman is going to be part of the DCEU, but I would love to see Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman in a Wonder Woman film. I think that would be really amazing.
Because my favorite era of Wonder Woman comics is when she lost her powers.
Right.
And I refer to it as the Diana Rigg years, because she was obviously so patterned after Diana Rigg's run.
Oh, from the like the James Bond film. Yeah.
And she was in the TV show with Pete. When she was Emma Peel.
Right.
And that would be great to reference, era of Wonder Woman to reference.
They might do that.
And then there's Nemesis, who was not really a bad guy, but kind of a government agent that worked with her. That was during the time, because Steve Trevor was one of those characters. They were constantly, I think he was killed off more times than even Jean Grey.
And I kind of looked it up that Maxwell Lord isn't really exactly the same as he was in the comics, because he kind of looked like he was a spy or a soldier at one point.
Maxwell Lord was created by Keith Giffen and I'm trying to remember the artist. Was it McGuire? For Justice League International. And he was a meta that could he had the power to force suggestions on people.
Okay, so he was actually had metahuman abilities, but in the film, it just he got sort of metahuman with the wishing. But yeah, okay, I guess that's kind of accurate after all, sort of maybe.
It's close, and they gave him a more interesting backstory and had him tie closer into Trump. Keith Giffen couldn't go as far with the Trump as he wanted to because DC was worried.
He's a rich billionaire. What can he do?
Yeah. Well, they were worried about him suing him.
Now, classic Jake, what'd you think of the whole wishing stone part?
They had the explanation for it. You had to spend so much mental energy figuring it out because it was so garbled, the explanation. That's the one thing that was, to me, that really hurt this movie.
That's fair.
Because it was like, it was very confusing, because you understood him giving the wishes, but the payment wasn't really spelled out. And by the time it was spelled out, it felt a little ex machina.
Yeah. It kind of just bothered me because it was like, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it fit in the context of the film a little bit, but yeah, it could have been better fleshed out.
Yeah, it kind of summed up the whole thing about the 80s. It was like, yeah, greed is good. No, it isn't.
Yeah, I mean, that because I know that Pedro Pascal was inspired by Gordon Gekko. But he didn't go full bore Gordon Gekko here, so yeah.
I think it would have worked a little bit better if Cheetah, like, her wish didn't go away. Like her like, it was after the wishes that were after that with Max Lord were gone after the Max Lord took it because he became the power or whatever. But if the Cheetah became Cheetah, and that is the her curse for the rest of her life, I think she would still have the power, she would still have the abilities, but that is the curse. I think that would have been a stronger way than, okay, everything's reset.
Well, we don't know for sure because they left some things very ambiguous. Like
is Maxwell Lord going to go to jail?
Yeah, is Maxwell Lord, even though his wish is gone, he renounced his wish, he became the Wish Stone.
Yeah.
So So is he still the Wishing Stone, even though he renounced his
Is he going to reappear and do more havoc? What's going to happen?
Mm-hmm. Is the Wishing Stone back?
I know it was killing him, so is it going to kill him potentially? And he got one last hug before he passed away. I mean,
yeah, there's
who knows?
Yeah, and is Steve going to be in the third one? Are they going to? Or is Diane going to find a Lazarus pit and just toss a body in there and bring Steve?
Probably,
back?
or maybe they'll do the thing from BVS where they just throw him into the Krypton ship pool and they just recreate Steve Trevor, but with doomsday capabilities.
or is this something going to happen in Flashpoint?
Yeah. Oh, that would be great. Have a Flashpoint storyline, like maybe have an alternate universe where he doesn't die, and it's like, Steve, you don't have to do this. Just jump out.
I want the Flashpoint to happen so bad. I want to see Aquaman marry Wonder Woman, and then Wonder Woman cut off Mara's head and stick it on a pole. I mean, wouldn't you want to see Gal Gadot decapitate Amber Heard and stick her head on a pole?
Screw you, Amber Turd.
I'm sure Johnny Depp would pay good money for that.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you my $10 million paycheck to do this. Here you go.
Now, here's an idea. How about Max Lord does die, but he comes back as Solomon Grundy?
Ooh, that's an idea.
That could be interesting.
Or what if the son becomes Solomon Grundy by some happenstance?
Just an idea. Yeah, we didn't really like it that much, Classic Chick. I wanted to like it. I wanted to like it so bad. I was like playing with the 7 in my mind, and I couldn't swallow it. So I had to go down to a 6, and I was just like, damn it. I wish it was a better movie. I wish it was not shorter and tighter.
Yeah. Now, I did say that if you watch it in 3D, it does up it a full notch to make it a good 7 for me.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I kind of feel like it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean,
this wouldn't be a great show if we all agreed all the time.
No, I mean, it's great to have differences, but yeah. I mean, like, I hated Gemini Man, and apparently y'all loved it more than I did, so I feel like the odd man out.
And we guys liked Dark Phoenix more than it seems like the rest of the world.
I love Dark Phoenix for what it is. I mean, it's not a great film, but I thought it was a hell of a lot better than Apocalypse and Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, so I don't understand the hate people have for it. I mean, I thought this was good. I thought it was a decent movie. It moved for me. And I think a lot of it was because I think one of the things that put me over the top with it was its realistic depiction of the 80s.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, maybe in future viewings, it'll probably grow on me. I'll like it. Maybe the story beats will connect more. But as is, just 24 hours past watching it, it's just a solid 6. It's slightly above average, but it's not as what I wanted,
If it wasn't for the cinematography, I probably would have given it a 7.
Yeah, like the 3D would have bumped it up if you could have seen it. It probably would have bumped yours up to a 9, but like Adolf says,
I still think I would have knocked enough points off some of the stuff with the like I said, this was like 2 movies jammed into one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really meshed really well.
Mm-hmm. But I thought the cinematography was worthwhile. I also really like the relationship of Steve and Diane. I mean, you normally don't see adult relationships like this in a comic book movie.
Their chemistry is fantastic, and what they do with it is great. That's the best parts of the movie.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And all while watching this movie, I said, man, I wish Captain Marvel was like this.
Yeah, Captain Marvel is not good, but it had a better, I think, a feeling of the period that it was set in with the 90s, but it's just not a great movie.
Yeah.
I think in this movie, maybe actually get the evil god out of the crystal or something. That could have worked a bit better than his powers are input into the crystal. It just, maybe that I don't know, something about it just did not rub me the wrong way. Like, this could have been also a vehicle to make more of these villains like Giganta or something, you know, having that crystal be a curse, and I don't know, the ending just felt so weird. Like, I liked the message, but I also didn't like, okay, now everyone's gonna give up their wish, and, you know, gotta be some people that don't give up the wish, you know, I don't know. It just gave me a bad taste in my mouth.
It wrapped up too nicely, too perfectly.
Yeah. Well, I saw it as she was doing that because, see, if people had did that in the 80s, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in today, because this movie very much realized that the greed of the 80s is what's poison to this country.
Going back to Wonder Woman 84, anything else, any final things you want to mention, Classic Jake?
No, I thought it was a worthwhile movie. Your mileage may vary on how much you like it.
All right, new Jake?
I mean, my thoughts were perfectly stated in the previous one that we did, but it may grow on you. But I mean, for right now, it is a 6 out of 10 movie. It's just slightly above average. It's didn't really exactly work for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, you know, I'm not because I'm a guy that hates women or anything. I wish it was a better movie.
Yeah, same here.
It just, a lot of parts fall apart for me, and I feel like it could have been better, and I'm disappointed, but doesn't mean I hate it, you know?
No, I mean, same. I mean, it's not Gal Gadot's fault, because she was perfect. She's even better here than she was in the first movie. It's just the story didn't work for our needs or her needs.
Yeah, I just think this was a screenplay failure.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve the hate that it's getting right now on critics and review sites and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, same here.
they just want to hate on something because that's the only thing they have to hate.
It's
I
the
guess.
cool thing to hate on.
Yeah. All right, we'll be out of here.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Before this podcast wraps up, I want to thank my patrons. Thank you, Kano3D, Mr. Bengal 5, and Kevin Winter for your financial support on Patreon.com.
So that's going to be it for this podcast. Thanks for listening. You can find 3D or 2D on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, and more. Just look for 3D or 2D. Links are in the info box. If you want to send us listener mail, our email address is email3dortwo@gmail.com. Thank you for either listening or watching this podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.